You can now get a 30-day trial to experience The Athletic for free. Visit the link in the description below to try it now.
The pick and roll is a move almost as old as basketball itself. In its simplest incarnation, the big man sets a screen, or pick, allowing the ball handler to escape the attention of the player guarding him. The screener then rolls towards the basket and makes himself available for a pass. From there, the ball handler has the option of either driving into the lane and attempting to score himself, or looking to find the rolling big man for, in theory at least, an easy basket. It didn't become the predominant action of choice for most NBA offenses until fairly recently though. So why has the pick and roll become the most fundamental and effective play in basketball? From the great Oscar Robertson and Wayne Embry in the 1960s to Utah Jazz pair John Stockton and Karl Malone in the 90s, star NBA duos have utilized a form of pick and roll attack to great effect throughout the game's history. But for much of its early use, the pick and roll was regarded as exclusively a two-man game. The other three players on offense were spare parts. Pick and roll still formed a part of some of the game's most successful offenses. Magic Johnson's Showtime Lakers were best known for their fast breaks, but the legendary point guard became a proficient runner of pick and roll in the late 1980s. Around the same time, Isaiah Thomas and the Detroit Pistons utilized screen and roll plays en route to back-to-back championships. Stockton and Malone's pick and roll prowess helped the Utah Jazz reach consecutive finals in the late 90s and contributed to Stockton becoming the NBA's all-time assists leader and Malone ranking third all-time for total points scored. "We have 11 options off just the action of me setting the pick," Malone said in 1998. "That's the beauty of it. For every adjustment defenses make, we have an option that's already worked against it 1,000 times." But it was the advent of two seismic shifts in the NBA landscape that led to the wider use and rapid evolution of the pick and roll. The first came from a change to the rulebook. For many years, the NBA's illegal defense rules prevented teams from using any form of zone defense, in which defenders would guard space rather than sticking tight to an opposition player. As such, one-on-one isolation plays and post-ups, where a player, usually a power forward or center, would station themselves close to the basket and aim to beat their defender through savvy footwork or sheer force, were the dominant forms of offense. The abolition of the illegal defense rule in 2001, coupled with the outlawing of hand-checking, meaning defenders were no longer allowed to place their hands on an offensive player to impede their progress and guards could more easily drive into the lane, unlocked a world of pick and roll possibilities. Secondly, the NBA's boom in three-point shooting made the pick and roll more versatile and difficult to stop. The league had awakened to the value of the three-point shot, and with shooters spaced wider around the court, there was more room in which to run pick and roll plays. In each of the seasons they reached the NBA Finals in the 90s, Utah ranked last in three-point attempts. Instead, it was the Phoenix Suns in the mid-2000s, led by coach Mike D'Antoni and point guard Steve Nash, who utilized floor-spacing shooters to create perhaps the most influential modern pick-and-roll offense. D'Antoni would position Amare Stoudemire, ordinarily a power forward, as a center, allowing for an extra shooter to be added to the lineup. With Stoudemire as the roll man and Nash, himself one of the great shooters, surrounded by three-point threats on the perimeter, the two-time MVP was near unstoppable coming off a screen, with options of driving to score, kicking out to a shooter, or pulling up from three. In Nash's first season with the Suns, 2004-05, they ran more pick and rolls than any other team. 22% of their finished plays originated from pick and roll action. There was only one other team, the Seattle Supersonics, who averaged above 20%. 5 years later, 2/3 of NBA teams ran pick and roll plays at least 20% of the time. And by 2015, all 30 clubs did so. Indeed, in the 2020-21 season, no team ran pick and roll in less than 25% of their finished plays. Modern variants of the pick and roll have increased the versatility and unpredictability of the action. As bigs have become more comfortable shooting from range, the pick and pop option sees the screener jump into space on the perimeter rather than roll to the rim, and therefore become a shooting threat. The short roll is a great way of utilizing two playmakers on one team. For example, the Golden State Warriors might use Steph Curry as the initial ball handler. He'll then pass to power forward Draymond Green on a short roll. Green can then locate a cutting teammate for an easy bucket or kick out to a three-point shooter, often Curry, who's relocated outside the arc. One of the more popular modern variants is the Spain pick and roll. This brings an extra player into the initial action, who sets a back screen on the defender guarding the original screener. The extra man will usually pop out into space as a shooting option while the first screener rolls to the rim. And the dramatic skill evolution of NBA players has meant that it's not wholly uncommon to see two big men run pick and rolls too. For example, when they played together on the New Orleans Pelicans, power forward Anthony Davis would run pick and roll action with center DeMarcus Cousins as the screener. Likewise, two guards can run pick and roll plays, as James Harden and Russell Westbrook did while teammates on the Houston Rockets. Now, when defending the pick and roll, there are three basic options. The player guarding the ball handler can go over the screen, following behind the ball handler as they navigate the pick, and risk being left for dust if they drive into the lane. They can go under the screen, aiming to prevent the drive by moving the other side of the pick to meet the ball handler, but risk giving up an open look from 3. Or the defending team can switch, meaning the player guarding the screen setter will swap to guard the ball handler. But this can lead to mismatches where bigger players are forced to guard nimbler perimeter stars, or smaller guards are left having to track the usually much larger screener as they attack the rim. Unless the defending team is stocked with players adept at guarding all 5 positions on the court, the pick and roll forces them to pick
They're poison.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you do enjoy Tifo, you'll probably also like The Athletic. It has the best team of basketball writers in the world in a personalised experience connecting you with the teams that you care about the most, plus direct access to world-class journalists through live Q&As. And you can try it now for free for 30 days.